behind the scenes with future country rock blues kings and queens. Discover them first with Palm Mash TV. Palm Mash TV.
Well, hello there, it's Paul Mash TV time again. Thank you so much for joining us. We got another great interview coming up shortly. But don't forget about the subscription button and the bell buttons below you there, and you're always going to get notified of any new episodes coming your way. And if you'd like to leave a comment on the comment section, you're welcome to. And pay attention to the description part of this video, because it's going to have contact info for you, and the same contact info for you will be available at the closing credits at the end of this episode, so stay tuned for that. From Granbury, Texas today, we have Sonny Morgan, a very awesome country artist. I think you're really going to love this guy. And we're going to get to that in just a moment, but first there's a quick word from the Caden Gordon Show and TLC Travel Agency, and it all begins right after this, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
The Caden Gordon Show. Today's best country mix is a 2-hour show playing independent and mainstream country music you know and love. Be sure to check it out at thecadengordonshow.com for more information on the show.
Ever thought about owning your own business? Tanya Lapsley-Cockett did. She decided a little over 5 years ago that she was going to be an entrepreneur, so she started her travel business. Tanya is married and works a full-time job. Her business has given her amazing opportunities. Not only does she get to help people create memories by booking their vacations, sporting and entertainment tickets, rental cars, etc., but it has also allowed her to help other families create legacy income. The travel industry is extremely lucrative and is an $8 trillion industry. The travel industry is projected to earn in excess of $15 trillion over the next 10 years. The travel industry pays its professionals up to 70 to 80% commission on the travel that they book for themselves and their clients. As a travel business owner, Tanya books travel and teaches others how to own and operate their own travel business. She is a director in training on the marketing side of her business, where she has helped over 90 families start their own businesses. If you're interested in owning your own travel business, please contact Tanya at 917-743-1199 or at ladytlc3555@me.com.
Okay, we're back, and with us from Granbury, Texas today, we have Sonny Morgan, and we're glad to have you on the show today, Sonny.
Well, it's great to be here. Good gosh, would love talking with you.
Okay, well, it's good having you on the show here. I'm sure your answer is the same as everybody else's, but tell us a little bit about how you got started. I mean, I'm sure you always wanted to be an artist since you were a little kid. Maybe you found much later. I mean, tell us in your own words. We'd love to hear your story.
Well, yeah, I'll make it real brief on my history. I grew up singing in the church from when I was a small kid all the way up through my high school years, and I played in the band. I played trumpet in the band from a time I was 10 years old to gosh, I guess in college, and that's where I learned the music side of it. And I didn't, I really never really thought much about getting into the artistry of it, but because my granddad both were car dealers in Dallas, Texas. That's where I grew up, and so basically I followed in their footsteps, and I was in the car business for quite a long time. I've actually opened 8 car dealerships and managed those, and in the interim of when I was doing that, I started selling cars to people that were in the music business. One, I sold Charlie Pride a bunch of cars. I sold Willie Nelson cars, and the latest, there's more than that. I can go in and pull a couple more out. Several more out of there. But anyway, the latest one that I sold back about 12, 13, 15 years ago, maybe it was longer than that now. Shoot, it's been about 15 years ago. I met a guy by the name of George Strait, sold him about 10 or 15 cars over the years. And he was a big influence with me. I mean, he wasn't, he actually was not, he wanted me to keep my day job. I was getting to a point where I was ready to retire out of the business because the car business isn't the same as it used to be when I started. And so I was ready to get out of there. And so um, he really didn't want me to do that. He wanted me to keep selling him cars. But I met a guy by the name of Ray Benson who, and this was in, gosh, let me think just a second. It was, I guess it was in 14, maybe 13, 14, something like that. And I met Ray Benson, and he and I were hit it off real well, started talking about things. And it was kind of funny because they were the influence. And what I would do at night, there was a little karaoke bar. I was living in Austin. I had a car dealership down there. And there was a little karaoke bar not too far from our house. And on Sunday night, it was dead. So I'd go down there and just see if I could sing, that kind of thing, and stand on stage and see if I could perform in front of people. And so anyway, it started out just as a lark, and I started building up a fan base at this little karaoke bar. People would come just to hear me sing. It was crazy. So one day I was talking to Ray Benson, and I told him, I said, why don't I do this? Why don't I pick you up? I was a Bentley, Rolls Royce, Aston Martin, and Lotus dealer down there. So I said, why don't I pick you up in a Bentley instead of you taking your tour bus? And I'll take you to this. I knew you were doing a gig in a little town called Albert, which is outside of Fredericksburg, Texas, it's about, probably 80, 90 miles from Austin. And so I picked him up and we went, and I had, of course, an hour or so to talk to him about things and what I was doing. And so we got there, and he, about, 4 or 5 songs into it, he got on his mic and said, Sonny Morgan, come to the stage. And I thought, well, he's wanting me to get the car ready for him to blast out of there after the thing was over with. He was just going to tell me. Well, went up there and he leaned over and he said, our music? And I said, heck yeah, I know your music. And he said, get up here and sing harmonies with me. And I said, you're kidding me. He said, no, if you're going to learn, you better learn right now. And so I got up on stage and finished the show with him, singing harmonies with him. And he said, he stopped for a minute when he was singing with me, harmonizing, and he looked down at me and he says, you don't need to be thinking about getting in the music business. You just need to do it, son. You need to do it. And so basically, after that, I asked, when we were driving home, I said, how would you go from here? And he goes, I'd go to a recording studio and record 7 or 8 cover songs and send them to Nashville and see what they have to say. So that's what I did, sent them out there. And about an hour and a half later, after I sent one to this guy out there named Chuck Rhodes, he sent me back and said, when can we meet? And next thing I know, I'm 6 months later, I'm in a recording studio recording my first album. So that's how it came about. It came about real fast. I mean, it was one of those deals that I didn't have to do much to go from being a guy singing at a karaoke bar to singing with Asleep at the Wheel, all of a sudden making an album. So came out with an album called It's a Beautiful World. And there's a long story behind that, but It's a Beautiful World was written by Daryl Singletary. And part of the reason why we were going out to Nashville to talk is my agent was Daryl Singletary's agent. And we were going to meet for lunch and maybe talk about doing some touring with him. And that morning, on Monday morning before our lunch, I got a call and Daryl had died in his sleep. And so I never got a chance to meet him, although It's a Beautiful World was written by Daryl, and it was a #1 hit for me. And I tell you, it's still a great song. When I'm singing at places, I still have people coming up and ask me to, requesting that song. And of course I always sing it, but they always request it before I get a chance to even sing the dadgum thing. So anyway, that was kind of the long and the short of it. And I've been doing it now for quite a while now. And I just released my 4th album, and it's getting some pretty good reviews. And I sent you a video of Beach Solution, which it's kind of ironic. George Strait comes out with a song called MIA down in MIA, which is one of his new songs off his new album. Well, I came out with Beach Solutions, which if you run them back to back, they're real close. And I don't know how that happened, because it was written by a friend of mine who's a songwriter. Most all my songs were written by a guy co-written at least by a guy named Mark Namore out of Muscle Shoals, Alabama. So there was no correlation of knowing that the two songs would come out that would be beachy songs, which I've only done one other beach song. And part of the reason I did Beach Solution was because of the fact of, I wanted another Jimmy Buffett type of sound on one of the songs. This was before Jimmy Buffett passed away. So when we wrote the song. So anyway, it just was a coincidence, I guess, that MIA down in MIA came out. But it's awful. It just, when you play them back to back, you'll know what I'm talking about. But Beach Solution was a song that we basically, uh, we talked about it, and I said, I love Daytona, Florida, and love to be able to lay back. And I haven't done that in a long time. I used to go down there all the time, and we started talking just about vacationing and how it relaxes me and all that other stuff. And next thing you know, we're writing a song about it. So it's a real. I love the song. I think it's really great. And there's a radio station down in Florida that's really playing the heck out of it because of the sound of it, and A1A and and Daytona and all this other stuff. It really comes out strong down there. Even the Daytona Chamber of Commerce is playing with the song too. So I thought that was kind of fun. But that's kind of the long and the short. I mean, there's probably about a 2-day conversation that we could have about how I got in the music business, but that was the abbreviated version of it. But it's been fun. I tell you, I've had a lot of fun. We've done a lot of shows. I'm trying to. I've invoiced probably somewhere around close to 1,000 shows, and so it's getting on up there. You don't realize how many you do until you start counting them and start looking at your bookkeeping and all that stuff. But that's what I've show. So that's kind of fun.
Okay, well that's quite a story there, and I noticed you
Yeah.
mentioned the one of the influence you had was George Strait. Did you have any others? I know you mentioned Charlie Pride and George Jones. Were they influences as well?
Well, Charlie and I met long ago, and I'll tell you a real quick story about him. I sold him. I was in the Cadillac business at the time, and I sold him some Cadillacs.
Mm-hmm.
And he was referred to me by Willie Nelson, or vice versa. He preferred Willie Nelson to me. But anyway, he and I became real good friends. He'd come by the dealership, and he had some wild cars besides the Cadillacs. His bought the Cadillacs mostly for his wife, but he was driving these wild Stutz cars that they had back then. They had the big wheels on the front fenders and a big flying lady out on the hood, and the white walls that are about 5 inches wide and all that stuff. But he came by one day, and he said, this was back in '81 now. And he said, let's go for a ride. I want you to hear a song I'm just fixing to release. And so I get in the car and we start driving around, and it ended up being Mountain of Love. I don't know, remember that Charlie Pride song or not, but it was a #1 for him. And I said, man, it was an old Johnny Rivers song. And he released that, and it did real, real well. And I told him, I said, I said, I know the song. And I said, but you put your spin on it, it's great. And so we're driving around in the Stutz, driving around Dallas, listening to his music on a cassette player that he had in the car. That's goes back to low technology type stuff, but that was a fun story. But that's how, these guys, Willie calls me one day and he says, I want to buy a car for my kid's godfather. And he's also my drummer, is a guy named Paul English. And he wanted to know if I had a Cadillac convertible. And I said, we have one left. And he said, what is it? And I said, it was red. And he said, that's exactly what I'm looking for, is a red one. And so we hit it off, and it was so fun that I was managing this company and his Cadillac dealership, and he gave us 135 tickets. And I thought, went to one of his shows in Dallas. And I thought, we're going to sit up in the nosebleed somewhere. Well, it turned out it was dead center, front row, all the way up the first 10 rows, right in dead center of the stage. And, that's how the guy was and is. And, it was just a real, real great relationship there. And Charlie was the same way. And George, we used to, there wasn't a day hardly to go by after, we're all pretty much the same. We were, Charlie's much older and Willie's much older than I am, but George and I are within 6 months of each other. So, it was one of those things that, and Ray Benson, we're real close in age, and you have a lot in common with that age group. And because we grew up in an era that is no like any other era that you would grow up in, and we had such a lot in common. And there wasn't a day hardly go by there for a while with George that we didn't speak or play golf or do something together and go to lunch or whatever it might be. And it was just a good friendship. It wasn't, I wasn't, gagaing over him because who he was. As a matter of fact, when he first called me and said he was interested in the car, I knew the name, but I really didn't. I said I had to look it up to see what songs he sang. That's how I didn't really know him that well. You're gonna love this. I wasn't really into country. I was more in rock and roll. I told him, I said, look, if you were Eric Clapton, I could tell you every song you ever sang, that kind of thing. So he said, I got a feeling we're going to get along real well, because I wasn't a groupie or, gawking all over him or anything like that. I said, I do know Amarillo by Morning. I do know all my exes, but that's only because I used to sing Amarillo by Morning when I was heading up to Amarillo on my motorcycle. I'd put it in the earphone in my ear and listen to it over and over to pass the time. And he liked that story, but that's really about the extent of me knowing. Now, there's not a song now that I can't sing that he's done, that kind of thing. So, matter of fact, I did a show the other night and did MIA, of all things, the new song he just came out with. So, it's just one of those things that I do it in his honor. I don't do it because I want to sound like George Strait, because I don't sound like George Strait. I sound like me. But, it's one of those things I'd really enjoy now. The Dean Dillon versions of, all those songs that Dean Dillon wrote and all that, made him who he was and got him the 60 number ones that he had. But, and I understand him when I see him do these stadium tours and all that stuff, I know why he's doing it. And I know because he can't lay it down. He just can't do it. When he did the Cowboy Rides Away tour, and he did that one out at stadium out there in Arlington, Jerry World, where the Cowboys play. He did that when there's 104,000 people there. I was over at his house the very next day, and it was like somebody had taken the wind out of his sails. And I said, "You're not going to retire." And he said, "Well, I'm going to." And I said, "No, you're not." I said, "You can't do it, man. Can't do it." I said, "You've been doing it too long. You just can't do it. You're not going to lay him down." He said, "Well, I'm going to sing," but I knew that he was going to start touring again. I just knew it. And he asked me, "What do you think I'm going to be doing?" Pardon me. And I said, "You're probably going to do a Las Vegas residency." Well, for I think 4 or 5 years, that's what he did. He did it out in Las Vegas at T-Mobile. But anyway, that's kind of some good stories. I mean, they're fun to have, and they're good. They're good to sit around and have a cold beer and talk about. But that's about all they're good for.
Well, that's good stories there, and we're getting ready to play that video for you. But before we get into that, I want to ask you: how can we get more of your music? I'm sure it's on all streaming platforms. Do you have an official site?
Sure it is.
How about social media as well?
Well, you can go on my website, sonnymorganmusic.com, and I'm on Facebook. I'm Sonny Morgan Music on Facebook. I've got a spot. I'm on all of them, all the electronic media. I can't. When we release a song, it goes to everything, and so pretty much. But if you want to kind of get a bio of me and kind of look at some of the things I've done, you can go on my website, sonnymorganmusic.com, and you'll be able to see everything.
Okay.
Pardon me. You choked me up.
Okay. Well, everybody go out to your favorite streaming sites and look up Sonny Morgan. I know he would love you for that. And you explained what the story was earlier, and that was what I was going to ask now, but that's okay. That was a good story anyway, by the way, on Beach Solution. And, we're going to play that in just a second, but Sonny, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Come back anytime you want to plug something new. Maybe we'll have you back on.
I'd love to. Matter of fact, the CD, if people still have CDs, I still have one, and I tell you, the fidelity on CDs are really good. But if they want to, on my website, they can go to my store. I've got caps and t-shirts, the typical stuff. And they're really cool. I had a graphic artist do the T-shirts, and they're really nice. And the CDs are on there, and I've got the first three, or actually the first two that are on there are real cheap. And then I've got this latest one on there too. So, and I when I get the email, I turn it around real fast, and you'll get a signed copy. And but it's the last album, which has got Beach Solution on it, is called Lonely Star State, which is kind of a play off of Lone Star State, but Lonely Star State 2024 is the name of the CD. And it's a good one. It's Buddy Hyatt produced it in Nashville. The best musicians that you could ever find. As a matter of fact, Brent Mason, who is the lead guitar on all of my albums and all my songs, is the same lead guitar player that's on all of George Strait's studio albums and all of Alan Jackson's. And I mean, I could go on and on and on about this guy. He's just unbelievable. He's a Grammy Award winner and all that. The music is the actual music is so good because of these pros that were doing this. Steve Henson, who was the steel guitar player for Loretta Lynn for a long, long time. My backup singer is Loretta Lynn's backup singer. And so, the people that I associated with on these albums are the best, and they're quality people, and they're great recordings. So if from that standpoint, if you really want to hear it, and basically put any of our music on a real good sound system, and you'll really hear the detail. It's really good.
Okay. Will everybody do that for him? And I know he would love you for that. And
yes.
Let's go ahead and play Beach Solutions, and it begins right now.
All the running and stressing out, about to drive us insane. Life hitting like a wrecking ball, constantly yanking our chain. Baby, let's be our own boss, get all kinds of lost. How about a few days in Daytona, a cooler full of Corona, a bocce grill aroma is what I've got in mind. Hey, let's turn off the news and we'll do some sunset cruising. A little beach solution is what we need to find. We'll stroll the beach hand in hand, watch the dolphins play. We'll leave our hard prints in the sand on a warm breeze getaway. Let's get ourselves unplugged, take some time to rekindle us, enjoy life's simple pleasures, find us some pirate treasure, do a whole lot of whatever comes across our mind. Hey, let's turn off the news and do some sunset cruising. A little beach solution, that's what we need to find. A little beach solution, that's what I've got